Hello guys, and welcome back to one of these a little bit sporadic review videos. If you're new to the channel, my name is Runa. I create motorcycle travel content, and for the past couple of years I've been using the DJI Osmo action cameras to capture my trips. I've had the Action 3, I have the 4, and now with the help of DJI Europe I've also gotten the opportunity to try the new DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. The 5 have quite a few new features or upgrades. Among them you have the new OLED screen front and back, you have a built-in storage, extended battery life, subject tracking, a new night mode, a new HDL mode, and a few more things. And I'm curious to see if it's worth upgrading from the 4 to 5. First question, which is the one that I definitely get asked most frequently, is why I've chosen DJI and not, for example, GoPro or Ace or any of the other action cameras that are getting quite popular these days. The first two cameras that I used to capture my travels were in fact GoPros, but unfortunately I ran into the same issues that seemingly quite a few GoPro users run into. They would just randomly freeze up where I had to take out the battery to restart them, and it caused me to lose a lot of footage. So basically it's just trust issues. I've used Osmo Action cameras, all three of them now, for a year and a half, and I've never once had the same issue happen with these cameras. When you're out traveling, it's really just the basic things that matter. It's the reliability, to know that it's going to work. It's battery life, so you don't have to worry about the battery running out, and it's just the ease of use. And in my opinion, DJI scores high on all of these, and I'm going to show you why. To capture content on my trips that I use in my videos, I use, hold your horses, I use 6 different cameras. I have my iPhone, which is currently the 14 Pro. I have my drone, I have my big camera, the Canon that I'm filming this video on. I have the Insta360, and most of all I use my 2 action cameras, which is currently the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. I have one mounted on my helmet here, and I have one mounted on my bike here in front. For the past about year, I've been using this Dango mount to attach my camera to my helmet. It's a really easy clip like this. I like how I can just see the top of the screen of my camera while I'm inside my helmet, just so I can also make sure that the camera is running, it's recording, and I can also see that the microphone is actually connected. You can attach the whole thing to something else if you just want to record yourself walking or doing something, whatever it is. DJI have actually released a very similar mount of their own, of the same sort. It's a little bit more shallow, a little bit wider, but yeah, it's on here really well. The only big difference in design is that with the Dango mount you can press the thing in and kind of turn the whole thing around if you want to position it differently for some reason. Otherwise they are very similar. Next one is the camera that I have installed here in the front to film towards me, to capture the background or when I'm talking or whatever, just to have a chance to change the perspective a little bit and make sure you capture everything from all angles. I might change out the mounting point here in the front at some point because I want to have a GPS installed and it goes there. So a good option is to have it on the handlebar. DJI have their own motorcycle handlebar mounts that you can also put on, for example, your crash bars or whatever. You have bars to put it on to capture different angles. And then I usually have my Insta360 somewhere here in the back on a pole, capturing kind of going from behind. So yeah, I really make sure to capture all the angles. One of my favorite features of the design of the camera and the camera body itself has to be the magnetic quick release. Makes it so easy to take the camera on and off if it's just for changing settings or changing batteries or whatever. Not that you have to take it off to change the batteries, because the battery door is right here on the side, so you can change the battery even while the camera is mounted. But just when you go into the store, you don't want to leave the cameras on the bike, or if you want to use it for vlogging, for example, you can just pop it off and pop it on the selfie stick and walk around, and it just saves you a lot of time, which I'm a fan of. When it comes to other accessories for the cameras that I use, it's not really a whole lot. I use the cages quite frequently, both because it keeps the camera a little bit more safe, but also it allows you to mount the cameras. Hold on, just a second. There we go. Like this, so you can capture content for stories or shorts or reels or TikToks or whatever it is. I also use the selfie stick or this extended rod thing every now and then, also with the magnetic mount, so it's very easy to put on there, and boom! You can get quite creative with it if you want to mount it on your bike or whatever, I don't know. Last bit of accessory that stay there, that I haven't used a lot up until now, but I'm going to start playing around with a little bit, is ND filters. You can buy packs of 3 ND filters. They just pop on top of the original lens like that. It's on there pretty well. You don't have to screw off the whole lens or anything. Just to use on days with really bright sunlight to try to get some motion blur and all that fancy stuff. What's really nice is that the accessories for the 3, 4 and 5 are interchangeable. So if you got the 3 or 4 and you spent some extra money on the adventure combo or accessories in general, you can use that also with the 5, so you can just get the camera and don't have to worry about spending the extra money on all the new accessory again. Other than that, the buttons are redesigned a little bit, so the buttons on the new cameras are a little bit bigger, both the record button and the on-off button. The button on the 3 and 4 was actually a little bit hard to press, but the button on the 5 has become a little bit softer, easier to press. They're both still quite flat though, which means with gloves it's kind of hard to feel it sometimes, especially if you have thicker winter gloves or something on. I worked around that issue a little bit by placing a little droplet of glue on top of the record button on the cage here that hardens, so yeah, it just makes it easier to feel when you're using your gloves. Also, which I mentioned in the beginning, they now have OLED screens in front and back, which are supposed to be a little bit brighter, and also the screen in the back is a little bit larger than the old one. They have touchscreens both in the front and back, so you can adjust your settings wherever, also from the front really easily, and they work well even though the camera and the screens are wet, and they work well with gloves. Alright, moving on. Hold on, let's check out my cheat sheets. Alright, internal storage. The new camera have 43 gigabytes, I think it is, of internal storage in the camera, so you don't really have to enter SD cards before you start recording. The irony of this, the SD card on my camera just got full and I kept talking my way through the next topics and I didn't freaking notice. Ah, such a freaking amateur. Alright, we were talking about internal storage and when the heck you might get the chance to use that. Let's say you're out recording in the middle of nowhere, your SD card gets full and you forgot to bring another one. So instead of having to go back and go through your footage and delete what files you don't need to make room for more recording, boom, you have 43 gigabytes to record off. I hope it's a feature I don't have to use, but I'm so freaking forgetful, it might as well be, and it's just nice to know that it's there. It's yeah, I think it's cool. On the same note, the 5 can now hold a SD card up to 1 terabyte. I'm sure there's a place and time for using such a massive SD card as well. Personally, I only use SD cards of about 128 gigabytes, sometimes up to 256. And the reason for that being, if you're unlucky and your camera is stolen or your SD card is broken or corrupt or whatever, at least you only lose 128 gigabytes of your trip, which for me, with my settings on this camera, is usually about, I don't know, 5 to 7 days with my helmet camera, and you don't lose a terabyte of your recordings, which might as well be the whole freaking trip. So I prefer to run a little bit lower SD cards and change more frequently instead. Alright, next up is my settings. I run my cameras at 4K, 16:9, 25 frames per second. I use the D-Log 10-bit mode. I have my white balance set to about 5,500 to 6,000. I use auto exposure. I have noise reduction set to standard on the microphone. And I have high bitrate activated. I use the wide point of view for my helmet camera, and I use the ultra wide for my camera mounted on the bike, which gives a point of view of about 155 degrees, I think. These are my set and forget kind of settings. I like to just keep it the way they are, not having to adjust them throughout the day. Holy smokes, it's cold. Back with more clothes, let's continue. Next up, image quality. There are some new features and upgrades to the camera, so let's take a look at some footage and see what we think. The camera now has no less than 4 different video formats versus 2 in the previous camera. There is normal 8-bit, normal 10-bit, HDL 10-bit, and D-Log M 10-bit, which is the one I prefer using. This footage is shot on the 5 Pro in the normal 10-bit setting. And in comparison, here is also footage from the previous camera in normal mode. 10-bit is not an option here. Here is footage in the brand new HDL 10-bit mode, which from my understanding is a form of HDR mode that according to DJI should provide better dynamic range and color display performance. What do we think? Next up is footage shot in the D-Log M 10-bit mode, and this is my personal favorite. Straight out of the camera, the footage looks a little bit grey and dull, so you will have to spend a little bit more time in post-production to color grade it to bring it back to life. In comparison, here is footage from the Osmo Action 4 in the same mode. And here is the color graded D-Log and HDL side by side. What do we think? The 5 also have a new night mode called Super Night. This uses AI noise reduction algorithms for sharper and clearer footage in low light environments, and I have to say it's looking pretty sharp. In comparison, here is footage from the Osmo Action 3 inside a dark tunnel. Here is footage from the Action 4 with the eyes priority enabled in low light. And here is all of them side by side. Next up is audio, a big and very important topic when it comes to vlogging. Just like with the 4, the camera body itself has 3 microphones, one on the top, one in the front, and one underneath. With the 4, you had 2 different noise reductions. You can have it completely off or the standard noise reduction. And with the 5, you now have 3 options. You can have it completely turned off, you can have the standard, or you can have the high noise reduction. So let's take a listen to what that sounds like while riding. Wind noise is a problem when recording at higher speeds, and I've tried a couple different things to try to work around that. What has made quite a big difference is getting one of these wind slayers. You put on top of your camera like so, covers the whole camera without interfering with the lens or the screens or the buttons or anything, and here you can take a look at what difference it makes with audio. I think this might actually be the best option if you're looking for a little bit better audio and you're not planning on using an external mic. Personally, I do use an external microphone in my helmet to capture my comments and thoughts while I'm riding. And finding good options for the Osmo cameras has been, how to put it nicely, a little bit of a pain in the ass. If you've seen my videos and still seeing my videos from New Zealand, you know that I had such a freaking struggle with my audio there. All of a sudden, my cameras just stopped recognizing that there was a mic connected to the camera at all. Then I got the Osmo Action 4 and the new DJI Mic 2, and I thought this was the answer to all my prayers. I thought the problem was solved because it now came with the feature that you could connect the DJI Mic wirelessly, meaning I could get rid of all dingle dongles, cables and whatever, and like even when it's raining, I could still record in my helmet. And it works really well as long as you keep your camera on. If the camera had been off for a while, which it sometimes is through the day, it could sometimes, very randomly, take 10-20 seconds before it connected to the camera again. And that made me have to leave my camera on as long as the microphone was connected to make sure it didn't disconnect. Which again meant that I have to change the battery of the camera a lot more often. It was just a little bit annoying. But it seems like that issue is solved with the 5. I have no idea what they've done and why it's working so much better. I'm still using the DJI Mic 2. This surface is magnetic, and I have put a magnet on here just with the Subaru. So I can just pop it on out there, and it stuck really well actually. I have linked them and left them off for a various amount of time through the day and sometimes through the whole night. And then the moment I turn them on again in the morning at the most random time, boom, already connected. I don't know what they've done, but it seems like it's working and I'm loving it and I'm here for it. And I just really, really hope that it continues to work as well as it seems like it is. And this is the sound of the DJI Mic 2 connected to the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro. The gain is set to -12. It's quite windy today, but let's see what the sound is like even on highway speeds, shall we? There you go, now we got some proper speed. There's definitely a lot of wind noise in my helmet, and I'm sure there's a lot of wind noise in the microphone as well. But hopefully you can still hear me. Connecting 2 of these also means I can have one inside my helmet, and for example, just put one inside my backpack here. to record a little bit better audio of the engine. So let's check out what that sounds like. Hold on, it gets even better. There's one more feature with the microphone I want to mention. Now you can also enable backup audio on the camera itself. Even if the camera is connected to a microphone, the camera itself is recording audio through the built-in microphone. So no matter what happens, you should be able to have some audio saved that can be used in your videos. The more backups I can have, the happier I am. So that's a feature I quite like. Moving on, battery life. The battery life on the DJI Osmo Action 4 was already very good, and now they have improved it even more. With the right settings, with the new battery that is 950 milliamperes, you can now get up to 4 hours of recording. It's not the settings that I use though, so I want to see how long I can record with my settings. I also want to compare how long I could record with the Osmo Action 4 with the old battery, the Osmo Action 4 with the new battery, and lastly the Osmo Action 5 with the new battery. And this is how it went. Ready, set, go! The 4 with the old battery clocks in at 95 minutes, the 4 with new battery gives in at 126 minutes, and the 5 with new battery crushes them both with an impressive 168 minutes shooting in 4K. What's really nice is that also the batteries, along with all the other camera accessories, are interchangeable between the 3, 4 and 5. So if you had the 3 and 4 and you just want a better battery life, you can just buy the new batteries. You don't have to buy the whole camera. If you buy the Adventure combo, you do get the whole battery case with 3 batteries. They charge in this little cage right here. This is a little piece of equipment that I really like. Compared to the competitors' charging options, they have the boxes and all that. This one is so handy. It's so slim and nice and fits so well inside my tank bag where I charge it while I ride. I like how it has a lid, so it makes sure the battery stays in place while they are charging. And I also really like how you can use this as a power bank. If I'm running out of battery on my iPhone, I can just plug the cable in here and connect my iPhone charging. Or if you just want even longer battery life for your action cam, you can connect it with the battery case with a USB-C cable and just charge it while you use it. I've used them in minus 30 degrees Celsius and I've used them in 35 degrees Celsius. No matter what temperature or weather I throw at them, they just continue to work. And yeah, it just gives me a peace of mind while traveling. I also want to have a look at how this camera fares with just normal vlogging off the bike. And normally I use my iPhone for that. Mounted on a selfie stick with the Peak Design media kit and with a Rode microphone connected with the Boya adapter. The Osmo Action 5 has me reconsidering is maybe this is just as good option. I have the Osmo Action 5 mounted on the selfie stick thing that comes along in an adventure bundle, and the microphone that I have attached is of course the DJI Mic 2. The Osmo Action 5 is in wide point of view and the iPhone is in 0.5 zoom. Just I hope it's kind of comparable here. I have still not made up my mind which one I would like to use on my next trip, which one would be easier. The phone is always with me in my pocket anyway, but with the Osmo Action so easy to use, perhaps it would be nice just to have all the footage on the same camera. Let me know which one you like best and maybe we can make a decision together. The 5 Pro now also has a feature called subject tracking, which could be convenient when it comes to vlogging, which ultimately crops down the image a little bit, but tries to kind of always keep you in center. So even though I'm kind of waving it around like this, I should somehow always remain in the frame, which is fascinating. Whereas if I did the same with my iPhone, I would be all over the place and not in the frame whatsoever. So one more point to the 5 Pro when it comes to vlogging, I guess. All right, I think that sums up the whole thing, all the things that I wanted to mention in this video. There's a whole bunch more I could dive into. I previously with the 4 done a test of stabilization and all that, which also matters for motovlogging. So if you want to see that, you can check out the previous review video that I made of the 4. To sum it all up, to answer the question that I opened this video with, is it worth upgrading from the 4 to the 5? I guess this really depends on how you're planning on using it. The image quality, for example, in itself it's better, but it's not that much better that it for me would have been worth upgrading the camera. But the features like the DJI mic working so much better, connecting so much faster, the battery life being so much better, and those small things is what for me personally would be worth it to upgrade from the 4 to the 5. And why I'm going to continue to use the 5 in my future travels. But yeah, I guess you have to make up your mind on your own to see what's important for you and the way you use it. Let me know your thoughts on that. I'd be curious to hear. If you have any further questions, please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer as many as I can. And yeah, that's it for now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.